Good morning, brothers and sisters. Hope this finds you well and safe. There's a passage in the teaching of Jesus that has to be one of the saddest passages in all the New Testament. As Jesus is teaching the parable of the talents in Matthew's account, and if you recall, there were 3 servants. Each one was given a certain amount to use while the master was gone, and they were going to give an account of it when the master came back. The first 2 used what they were given and blessed as a result of using what they had been given. The third one is the one that we need to think about, because he says some of the saddest words in all the New Testament. In Matthew chapter 25 and verse 25, his response when he doesn't have something to show for what his master gave him, he said, "And I was afraid." I wonder how many good works through the history of years have failed to be accomplished because someone was afraid. What if Abraham had been afraid to pick up out of the very modern for his time city of Ur of Chaldees and wander as God sent him here, there, and yonder? What if Moses had been afraid? What if he had failed to finally get up and go and deliver the children of Israel? What about Joshua? What if he'd been afraid? What might not have been accomplished because of that? David, what if he had always run around in fear instead of trying to finish what Joshua's generation had only begun? What about Jesus himself? What if he had been afraid? We know that the cross was a terrifying thing because he asked God if there was any way for it to be removed, and yet, in spite of that, he overcame his fear. Well, as Christians, Paul tells us something, and I think this is an important passage. 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7, and maybe Timothy himself at this point in time was struggling with some fears. But Paul said, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Yes, we live in an evil world. We live in a bad world. But as Paul says in Romans 8, if God is for us, who can be against us? John tells us that greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. And so we, unlike that servant, should not allow fear to paralyze us. It's easy to do so. It's easy to let our fears get out of hand. But the counter to letting fear paralyze us, and Jesus probably went to the cross with some fear, but he didn't let it stop him. And the way to not let fear stop us is to do what the wise man told us so many years ago in Proverbs 3 and verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. So rather than being people paralyzed and terrified by fear, let us be people of the Lord who trust God's way's right, God's way's going to work, and we're going to do it God's way. And may He help you to do so.